Good morning. I'm Lee Gansky, and I've been a member of UUFM since 2007. I'm serving as the worship associate this morning alongside our guest worship leader, Mary Beth Tremblay. Mary Beth is a fellow UU member, a psychiatric nurse, and end-of-life doula. Our minister, Reverend Diana McLean, will be back in the pulpit on the 28th, next Sunday. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Mankato. All of you, whether joining us in person or on Zoom, are welcome in this time that we make sacred together. We extend an especially warm welcome to you if this is your first time here. We know and appreciate that it can be difficult to cross the threshold of a new church for the first time, whether that's in person or online. We humbly acknowledge that before European colonization, the Dakota people were stewards of the land on which our fellowship sits. They teach us that the land does not belong to any of us, though it holds the history of our conflicts and our attempts at reconciliation. And we commit to an ongoing and intentional journey of humble connection with Indigenous peoples, characterized by understanding our shared history, accepting responsibility for restoration, and building relationships in the here and now. Thus, we seek to be good relatives. Sunday morning is a team effort, and I'm grateful to all of you willing to serve. Our Director of Children's Faith Development, Macy Forsyth, will share a story in worship. Children's Chapel will be led by Danielle Stedman and Macy. Nursery care is provided by nursery staff members, Alex Sinsoa and Lyndon Anthony. Thanks to sound assistant, Denny Cramblett, I think, maybe Kathy Fushi helping with that. Denny and, yeah, okay, we're covered there. That was hearing assistant, excuse me, sound assistant, Andy Roberts, and worship tech, Kat Clements, and finally, thanks to our greeter, Diane Dobitz. If you are new to the fellowship, we are grateful that you are expanding the we who is us. If you are attending by Zoom today, you are welcome to stay after the service to visit together. For those attending in person, we will have coffee and refreshments in the fellowship hall today, thanks to Nancy Blethen, Amy Meckler, and Mary Beth Tremblay. We are always in need of more people to take turns in those roles that make Sunday morning possible. We are especially in need of more people to take turns assisting Kat with sound during worship, but there are many other opportunities as well. There's a clipboard in the hutch in the entryway for you to sign up for one or more of these ways to serve, and you can always use Sign Up Genius through our website. Announcements. Just a couple this morning. Our mid-year meeting will be next Sunday, the 28th, after a luncheon. Both the luncheon and the mid-year meeting were canceled last Sunday due to extreme weather. Big thank you to everyone for all the donations to the Giving Tree. We were able to collect 165 items for the REACH and CADA. Both organizations are very appreciative of the donations. Coming in February, the congregation will have the opportunity to provide feedback on our Children's Faith program. This program affects all of us, not just the children and their parents. Keep your eyes out for more information in the weekly newsletter in the coming weeks. Together, let us kindle a flame, symbolizing our co-creation of sacred space at home and in this place made sacred by years of love. As you do, please write in the chat that a chalice is lit on your street. And please say the words with me that you will find on your pew cards. We are a welcoming people of diverse beliefs who commit to nourish the spirit, broaden the mind, nurture the earth, and build community. May this flame we kindle remind us to strive today and every day to love beyond belief.
I just love that last line in the video. I feel it's so important that talking about death will help us live together better. It reminds me of the impermanence in our lives and that everybody that we love is going to die. I'm humbled and I appreciate being invited to share my interest in end-of-life care and doula work with you, so thank you. When our beloved Jane Shostak contacted the Free Press about doing a story on doulas, the journalist caught me off guard when he asked me about what got me interested in becoming a doula. I stumbled to answer him, and actually I don't know that I ever did, but it prompted me to consider my own journey. And I thought about having grown up across the street from a large Catholic church as a young child. I enjoyed watching all of the activities that went on, and that included the funerals. People were all dressed up, and they were crying, but they were hugging, there were smiles. The police escort was so impressive. I noticed people from all walks of life. They paused, lowered their gaze, and paid respect to a life that had come to an end. I think there was, clear recognition and importance given to the grieving family. And the ritual on Ash Wednesday, when the priest stated, "Remember, thou art dust, and to dust thou shalt return," always made perfect sense to me. During college, I cared for, I'm a nurse, and I went to MSU here, and at one point I cared for a woman that was dying with pancreatic cancer. And I noticed that no one was talking about the fact that she was dying. I fulfilled my necessary assignment, which was writing up a care plan down to the cellular level about what pancreatic cancer was doing to the body. But the most striking takeaway was the fact this woman lied there day after day all alone. It just didn't seem right to me. Back in the early 80s, hospice care wasn't in place. In our healthcare system, hospice care was finally included as a nationally guaranteed benefit under President Clinton in 1993. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross is a famous psychiatrist and expert on death and dying, and she spoke at MSU while I was a student there. I marveled at her wisdom, her assertion regarding the importance of addressing death as a natural process, and that talking about death would help us live better now. Having worked in this community now as a psychiatric nurse all these years, I've engaged in a lot of conversations about loss and death and life. We will all experience death. It's only natural to think about what it will feel like. Everybody you love is going to die. We must talk about it. We must plan for it. Today, hospice is covered by Medicare if your life expectancy is less than 6 months and you're not going to pursue any curative treatment. You will then be assigned a nurse, an RN, that will provide care twice a week for 2 hours, and then an aide twice a week for perhaps 2 hours. But the other 148 hours a week has to be provided by your loved ones, your family, your friends, your neighbors, because this is a social event. It's not a medical event. Really need to start thinking about this not being anything but a natural process and a social event. Dying is our final act of living. It's the last gift we give to our families. It's a sacred time in our life. Grief needs space and support. Research points out that at the end of life, people will seek to reconcile relationships while expressing love and gratitude. Again, talking about death will help us live together better. I took the doula training because I believe this, and I'm honored to companion people as they transitioned out of this life. It's a time of respect and celebration, and yes, it's a time of tremendous grief. Doulas talk about the hopes and fears related to death and dying. We will provide non-medical companionship and help shore up support so that your loved ones can be certain all is taken care of. There is a plan of care that we can sit down and do formally, and it addresses 5 domains. The first being practical issues such as advance directives, wills, your burial. And I had an interesting exchange with Denny Seymour. He really just is a real pioneer. He went to the cemetery board, and Hanska, he actually obviously gave you permission to share this, because he wanted to have a green burial arrangement set up for he and Vivian when their time is in need. And they were hesitant, I would say even reticent to do that, but he was able to talk with them about what their reservations were and work that out, and so that will take place, and that's exciting, and we need that kind of leadership. I was in conversation last week with, there's a gentleman in St. Peter, Joel Rimstad is his name, and he has 10 acres of an old cemetery plot in St. Peter, and he's opening it up this spring as a green burial site. The usual burial sites of 10 acres, you could bury in a typical casket about 160 people. But if you do a green burial, you can bury perhaps 10,000 people. So I think this is something the UU Church can get behind and support, and I'm excited to participate in conversations about that. Yes, Diane?
I just want people to know that Joel will be actually giving a presentation at Vine on April 11th at 10:30 to talk about that.
Yes, April 11th at 10:30. Sister Joyce Colbert had contacted me and asked me about doing a presentation on green burials, and I was like, oh God, I couldn't do that. But I knew that Joel could, so I'm excited, and I do plan to attend that. But anyway, that's the practical domain. The other one is the physical needs, and as a doula, what I want to know is, what do I need to know about you to ensure that you get the best care that you need? I want to be an advocate for you. I am an RN, so I can do a little bit more of looking at your medical information if you need that, or just interpreting things, or attending doctor appointments if that need should arise. Not all of the doulas are nurses, but many of them are. There's about 6 of us in the community currently, and there's another 6 that are going to be getting trained this spring. The third domain, we'll talk about where you are in your spiritual health, how we can ensure that your beliefs are honored and upheld, what type of anointing do you want, what kind of service do you want, have you thought about songs, readings, eulogy? These are all things that we can be thinking about and planning for now. And then it allows our families and our loved ones to take comfort in knowing that that's been addressed. The fourth domain is the emotional domain. We address relationships. Some relationships in our lives we may want to approach a bit more, and others perhaps it's time for us to let go. An interesting thing, Larry Van Tol identified me in his obituary, so he gave me permission to publicly speak about being his end-of-life doula. And one thing I did with him is I wrote letters to various people that he wanted to be sure got a message from him while he was still very clear in his thinking. And so I actually wrote letters. He just sort of talked out loud about that person, and I wrote it down, and then they got those letters after his funeral, which I think was quite meaningful to those individuals. And I think it helped Kathy to know that they knew how much they meant to Larry. But there's a variety of things that we can do. Legacy work is the final fifth item that we talk about, is what's kept your mind busy, what are your pivotal moments, what are you proud of, how might this be recognized now rather than later. You know, Jane Shostag, she, had such a dedication to our youth, and she sought donations for my place, and she raised over $15,000 before she died, and I just think, what a legacy is that? And so we should be thinking about what we want to do. Doula work can be simple, and it's certainly individualized. There are 6 doulas, as I said, in the community. It's a sliding fee scale. We don't hold anybody outside of the parameter of our care if they're not able to pay. If you're interested in becoming a doula, let me know. Most of the doula training is online now, but we're trying to have some in-person sessions accompany that. And Patricia Nino has informed me that the UU Church here is interested in supporting that endeavor. So for that, we're very grateful. I hope maybe you'll think about hosting a party where we can explain some more of these ideas. I'm open to talking with anybody. I think about where you want to die, in a home, in a care facility, out in nature. Who do you want with you? Shall candles be lit? What smells and sounds do you want to hear? When listening to music, start listening to see if it's a song you might like played at your funeral. Don't wait to think about death and dying. We deal with transitions when we're prepared for them, whether it's marriage, divorce, retirement. Let's support one another in doing that. And then I'm just going to read a prayer that the training that I went through was out of Colorado, and it was a Conscious Dying Institute. And this is a prayer that the woman that created our training wrote, and it reads, I return to God. I release my body to the earth. I retrieve my energy from all worldly things. I relax into the source of my being. Death is my teacher. I have prepared for this moment all my life. All teachings converge for this departure. The truth of impermanence envelopes me. I am free from suffering. I release my spirit to the light. I am forgiven. My work is done. I return to the light. I hope you agree, talking about death will help us live together. And then if you could just advance the slide, Andy. These are slides that I just think are good to look at, and they cause us to pause and think. I'll just let you take that one in. And then if you can do the next slide, Andy. And the next slide, Andy. I think that one where the way appears, I think, is an important piece of things, because I think a lot of anxiety that takes place when we get a healthcare diagnosis is our anxiety about navigating that and how we're going to manage that. And I think if we can take a breath and trust that the way will appear, and that we just kind of pause and access the resources that are available to us. We can get through it, especially if we do that together. And if you could advance the slide again. And this is just a slide that we have used in our doula presentations. It goes over the various things that we do. Unfortunately, what happens a lot of times is if you do not plan, things will take place that perhaps aren't things that you would have supported or wanted. And I think it's an opportunity that a lot of people are missing out on if they don't think ahead and plan ahead. If you have other questions, I'm going to be available downstairs, and I'm happy to talk to anybody. So thank you for having me today.
As Mary Beth extinguishes the sanctuary chalice, please extinguish your chalice at home and say the words with me. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.